In this presentation, we will upload bank transactions, this time using them to create bank rules. So the bank transactions that we will upload, in other words, will be a bit more complex than the transactions we've seen in the past. So we can use that data for specific rules and a bit more complex rules as we manipulate or enter that data into the system. Here we go with Xero. Here we are on our Triple G company dashboard. We're going to now be entering data once again for the bank fees. The data that we're going to be entering is going to look like this. You're going to have access to this file if you're following along with the course. And this is going to be for May's information. It's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to go through the whole bank reconciliation process with this. We're going to use this data to practice with things like bank rules. So we'll set up different bank rules as we enter this data. Now note, as you enter the data, you might have some more information when the descriptions, in other words, from the bank could be a little bit more detailed, especially if you have electronic transfer type of information. Then it might have, a longer names, as you might see here. You might have some numbers kind of like at the end, and those can indicate things like stores, possibly at different locations that you have, or some different department possibly within the institution. And those different types of things could help us to do kind of some more complex types of bank rules. Also note that if you download this information to something like Excel and wanted to sort that information, you can do so. I mean, I'm going to highlight these tabs just to show this quickly. And if you go to the data tab over here and we add some filters, I'm in the data tab, sort and filter, and then I'm going to filter it. And then let's say I want to filter it instead of by date, I want to filter it by description, meaning show me this information by description so I can see the like kind of items here, the similar items. And so I'm going to say, A to Z by description. And then I can look at some of this data and try to think about, well, how can I add, rules that might help us out? So for example, if you work at as a online marketer or something, you might have different kind of payments you get from Amazon. You might do affiliate marketing from Amazon, so you have different deposits, and you have possibly you have Audible from Amazon, which might have come in as Audible or something like that, or you might have different kind of payments that Amazon gives you, and they might indicate those different payments by something like media, EU, or here's a C, different Amazon payments. So although they're both coming from Amazon, that would typically be the vendor, you may be able to break these out into different income accounts based on the fact that Amazon has this more descriptive kind of terminology depending on what type of payment you have. Similarly, if you have different kind of American Express cards, then you may have some indications with regards to the number on the American Express or something like that that could differentiate those two cards and make those, the payments there easier to see in the bank account. Audible, so you might have Audible, and that, again, that's a deposit in this case from Audible, which is owned by Amazon as well. They're breaking that out in a separate way. So you could see some of this data. For example, Home Depot. We might do an example with Home Depot. You might say, hey, I buy a lot of stuff from Home Depot. It's usually kind of an expense as like supplies or maybe something I use on normal jobs or something like that. But sometimes I buy large items, and you might say, well, if it's over a certain dollar amount, I want you to then tell me something different, right? In other words, put it into like jobs or supplies or something like that. If it's under a certain dollar amount, if it's over a certain dollar amount, put it into a fixed asset, or at least don't put it into supplies. Tell me about it so that I can look into it and see what I want to do with it. So we might have something that we could break out like that. So you can see different transactions. You can see how these are basically grouping together within them. Here's another one with like the Verizon. We might have different Verizon companies or different phone bills, and even though they're both going to Verizon, they might be indicated by different numbers. We might take those different numbers and be able to make some type of rule to assign different accounts, possibly by location or something like that. So that's how some rules we can think about considering to enter this data. These are types of rules that won't typically be picked up by the system because they're too complex. They're taking a little bit more data than typically is there, and therefore we need to add a little more complexity to those rules. So I'm going to go ahead and close this back out. I'm not going to save it. Also note before I do it, you can add other fields over here before you enter the data and try to add things like descriptions, and we'll see the other fields that you can add. But you could, within Excel, add that other data here before you upload it, and that might be something that you can test out to see if it would be useful. It might be faster in some cases. So I'm going to go ahead and add this then. So we're going to go then to our accounting dropdown. We're going to go back into the bank accounts, and we're going to be adding this to our normal checking account. So we're going to go into the checking account. I'm going to then hold down control, scroll up a bit, get up to that 125 where we like to be. We're going to be in the checking account. We're going to be adding data. So we're going to go to the manage account information on the upper right, and we want to import statements. So we're going to import statements. Not really a bank statement we're importing here. You're not going to import a PDF file. You're importing the transactions. So just be aware of that. I think that name's a little misleading, but it works. And so here we have our information. These are the types of files that we can be imported. We, of course, will be importing a CSV file as we have in the past. So we're going to browse to take a look and see if we can find, which I believe we will be able to, that CSV file. Now, the one we want is this one. It's called Data Files for Bank Rules. So these are the data files for bank rules. Note it is a CSV type file. So we're going to go ahead and double click on that, uploading that, and there it is down here. So it's a CSV bank rules. I'm going to go ahead and import it. So let's import that and see what we have. And we're going to say data files. Now we're going to match up the information. So we're just matching up those heading lines once again. So all we're doing is taking our bank information. We have the 3 lines, date, amount, and description. And that's going to line up here to the date. So ours says date, they say transaction date, amount, and then transaction amount, description, and description. Now note, these are the other lines that you could add before you do the importing process. You could try to say, hey, I'm going to add the payee or the reference or the transaction type and so on in your CSV file before you upload it, because typically within the data you get from the bank will not have that added information. It'll typically have these 3 items, but then you could take that and possibly add more information. It might be a little bit faster if you add that to the Excel type worksheet before uploading, so you can test that out if you so choose. So then we're going to go ahead and save this and pull this over into our statement. We have 39 statement lines were added, 0 were duplicates. So that is good. That's what we were expecting. So now we are in our statement information. We're on that first tab, the reconciliation tab. So here's the 39 items. And we've seen this location before, so now we have it on the bank side of things, has been included. We don't have anything on the book side of things. Now, most of this is not going to match up, and they're not going to give any suggestions because, again, we're using new data types down here. Also note that we have a lot more data. Therefore, we have 4 sheets, so you can jump to the sheets here, or we can go to the next items with the next tab down below. We, of course, don't have anything. We have then the bank statement information, which will be those 39 items, which are not currently reconciled. So we've got these items that are not reconciled. These are the things we had for the last month, which are reconciled. And then on the account transactions, these new accounts that we've entered, these 39 transactions are not included. Only the reconciled items are included from the prior periods. We don't have these 39 new transactions. So back to the bank, to the reconciliation. Also note, of course, these are not affecting the financial statements. These transactions currently in the Xero limbo. So they've been included here, but they haven't passed all the way through to get to the grace land of the financial statements and not be used to create the financial statements. But they're going to make it there, so we're going to add them, and we're going to use bank rules to help us do it. So we'll do that next time, but for now, that's it. Let's get out of here.